Today's topic we will discuss and we will go to the new topic, okay, which is Government of India Act 1919. Okay, so just before that, so Government of India Act 1919 we will discuss that this act which was passed in 1919, what are the specialty of this act, what is the main provision of this act, and how far this act is useful, okay, from the point of views of Indian people. So we will discuss about Government of India Act 1919. Okay, we will go forward, children. Now, if you are going forward, this Government of India Act 1919, this act which was passed in 1919, and that's why this is called Government of India Act 1919, because when we are seeing this act, okay, so this we are learning about civics, we are learning about the first chapter, okay. For second year, this is the unit 1. So this is about the Government of India Act, means 1919 this act was passed, and this act was formulated and passed by Lord Montagu and Lord Chelmsford. So they are responsible for the formulation of this act, which is called Government of India Act. So who are this person? Lord Montagu and Lord Chelmsford. Okay, they were responsible for the Government of India Act 1919. So they both cooperated and they formulated an act. So they have some favorable and unfavorable provisions. We will discuss in this Government of India Act what are the favorable provisions and what are the unfavorable provisions. We will discuss it. So first this Lord Montagu and Lord Chelmsford, so they are responsible for the formation of Government of India Act 1919. Okay, now what are the various reforms they have started in this act? We will discuss it. See, children's executive council, during that time executive council will try to implement the law. So whenever anything will be passed in the parliament, okay, any law, our executive council role is to implement the law. Okay, effectively that law should be implemented. So that is the role of executive council. Now here if you see that in executive council there are totally how many members are there? 8 to 12 members. So they have according to this act they have increased the strength of the member of executive council from 8 to 12 members. Initially it have 8 members, and after completing and after passing this act the strength have increased to 12 members. So this is next important provision of this act is half of the executive council will serve in India only. Before executive council most of the time they used to serve in London, England. Okay, and very few will be very few executive council used to serve in India, very few. So their role is to implement the law effectively, to control the laws and order, etc. But after completing this act and after formulation of this act, according to this, half of the executive council will serve in India also. Out of 100% of, imagine that 100% member of executive council, 50 in the sense half of the member will be served in India and other half of the member will be served in England and various colonial country. But here if you see half of the executive council will serve in India. Okay, and one more point from this act is the membership in the Governor General Executive Council have increased. Before the membership was only 1. Okay, after formulating this act the membership have increased to 3. So this is the first provision which was passed. So Government of India Act, so we have discussed that this act was formulated by the two persons, British officers, one is Lord Montagu and Lord Chelmsford. So they were responsible for the formulation of this act, and this act have some favorable as well as unfavorable provisions. We are discussing about this act, how far this act is important for India. First thing is as per the provision of this act, the members have increased from 8 to 12 members. Before the members were only 8, but they have increased to 12 members. Half of the executive council have to serve in India. As the provision which was passed in Government of India Act, half of the executive council, imagine if 12 members are there, okay, membership if it is 12, then 6 members, okay, half of the members will serve in India and rest of the members will be served in other colonial country or in England. Okay, so the membership have also increased. Now second point, if you take an example, according to the provision of this act what it is saying that during this act when it was passed, central legislatures were mainly consists of bicameral. Bicameral is nothing but whenever the houses are classified into two parts, okay, that is called bicameral. So we have already discussed in India. At present, if we are talking, India is also bicameral. Why? Because at central level, the houses were mainly classified into Lok Sabha as well as Rajya Sabha. Okay, Parliament mainly divided into two parts. So one is called Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha. Whenever the houses are consists of two parts, that is called as bicameral legislature. So here also, in according to the provision of Government of India Act 1919, okay, what they have said, legislative assembly should be, central legislative assembly is a bicameral, where the power is vested in the hand of two houses. One is called legislative assembly and one is called legislative council. Children, in the olden days, in place of Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, they used to have legislative assembly and legislative council. Today when we are talking, now legislative assembly and legislative councils were there. Legislative assembly in state level, this is called Vidhan Sabha. Vidhan Sabha. And legislative council, which is called as Vidhan Parishad. Vidhan Parishad. So here we have discussed about, this is the important provision. So as per the provision of this act, the central legislative assembly is called as bicameral, where the houses are mainly classified into two types. One is called legislative assembly and legislative council. Now in legislative assembly, what is the total strength here? So as per the provision of this law, total strength is 146. Okay, strength have increased. And in legislative council, the total members of strength will be 60 members. So here the positions and the strength is increasing. So in this provision, the membership have increased in legislative assembly and legislative council, and also the membership have increased for the governor general in executive council. So here they have played an important role since from the long back years, since the Indian people are demanding that the membership should increase, and that's why this is somewhat favorable, because the Britishers have increased the membership in legislative assembly, legislative council, and also the executive council, governor general executive council membership Britishers have increased. Okay, next I'll go forward. Now they have introduced Diarchy. Children, Diarchy means what? Whenever the powers are under the control of two governments, whenever, for example, country's power is distributed under two governments, that is called as Diarchy. Okay, during that time the Britishers have introduced Diarchy system. So Diarchy, in the sense, some power they have vested in the control of Indian government, and some power will be under the control of British government. So two different government. So whenever the power transferred in two different government, that is called as Diarchy system. Now in Diarchy, so here the powers are distributed in provincial level. Provincial level, Diarchy system was introduced. At central level, not. Only at state level. Okay, in central level, all the power is under the control of British. But in state level, when you are talking, powers were distributed at both the level. Okay, provincial level, in the sense, in province, powers were distributed at central level as well as state level. Okay, but Britishers, whenever they have transferred the power to India, important field, what are the important field they have reserved for themselves only, and what are the unimportant field they have given to the Indian ministers. For example, during that time the subjects are mainly classified into two types. One is called reserved and one is called transferred. Okay, reserved, these subjects are quite reserved, and this will be under the control of Britishers only. So they, during that time the Britishers have not transferred this power to India. Okay, due to some fear. First one, finance. Finance is very important matter. So Britishers, what they have did, this matter they have reserved for themselves only. Whatever the financial related decisions are there, that are mainly taken by the Britishers only. So this is one point. Next point is irrigations. During the time, whatever the decisions regarding irrigations, okay, whatever the schemes are, whatever the plans, okay, so far Britishers have implemented very less resources for irrigation. Income they have spent it very less, but in terms of irrigation activity, also agricultural activity, this point is also reserved under the British government. So whatever the decisions regarding irrigations also Britishers have to take, because this is under the control of Britishers. And next we'll see about the laws and order. Most of the laws and orders should be under the control of Britishers. Okay, they have no faith upon any people, and that's why Britishers, what they have did, these are the main fields: finance, irrigations, laws and order. They have kept among themselves. So all the powers they have reserved among themselves only. Who? Britishers. Next, come to the point. Just now we have discussed in subject list the powers are classified into reserved and transferred categories. Transferred categories in the sense other related field which are having the less importance, that all were under the control of Indian ministers. Okay. So which are very important, the Britishers have made all this field as a reserve. For example, defense is there. Defense is one field. Okay. Laws and order, irrigation, defense in the sense that is at central level. So whenever we are talking at subject level, even this finance, irrigation, laws and order, even defense also, these are the main fields. These were under the control of British government. Which are the unimportant and less significant, less importance, these were under the control of Indian ministers. During that time, Britishers wanted to give India to self rule. Okay, during that time some Indian peoples were also appointed during the British Parliament. We will go forward. Next one, Indian Parliament. Now here provincial legislative assembly. If you are talking about the legislative assembly at state level, so they have only legislative council, but there is no legislative assembly. So Britishers have appointed unicameral system. Okay, so British and state level they have appointed unicameral system. Unicameral in the sense where the power vested in the hand of only one house. The state which have only one house, that is called unicameral. So just now we have discussed what is called unicameral and bicameral. Bicameral in the sense, in central level there is bicameral. Okay, in central level parliament are mainly consists of two houses, legislative assembly, legislative council. But as per the provision of this Government of India Act 1919, at state legislative assembly there is no legislative assembly during the period of Britishers. Only legislative council they have implemented as per this act. Only there was legislative council. So this is called as unicameral. State level, if we are talking about the strength, at central level what we have seen, at central level we have seen that the powers are based by central level, the form of parliament is a bicameral where powers are vested in the two houses, legislative assembly and legislative council. In legislative assembly, if you see, the total members were 146 members. In legislative council the total members are 60 members. So similarly here also, if you see, in the provincial legislative assembly there is only one house which is legislative council. That's why this is unicameral. Total strength it will be nearly 23 to 139. If you see the size of the strength, and when we are comparing at central level assembly, the size of the strength at state level is very less. Today every states have Vidhan Sabha, Vidhan Parishad. Okay. But during the period of Britishers rule they have no Vidhan Sabha, in the sense they have no legislative assembly in most of the state. As per the Government of India Act, they have set up only the legislative council, and the strength of legislative councils have increased from 23 to 139. These are mainly based upon population. Strength is mainly depends upon the population. Okay. Today also if you see, whatever the members are there in the parliament, okay, or whatever the MP seats are there, okay, in how many seats should be there in state level, okay, how many members of the seats should be increased, that depends upon the size of population. The area where more population will be there, they will increase the representatives more there. For example, Uttar Pradesh, if you see today, Uttar Pradesh have more than 90 seats in Lok Sabha. Okay, we have various states. Out of various states, total how many seats are there at present in Lok Sabha? 545 seats. In 545 seats, Uttar Pradesh have 90 seats because of the size of population. Here also same thing. Legislative council strength, some area will be 23. Why 23? Because in that area when the population will be less, the size also will be less. In some area when the size will be more, when population will be more, the size also will be automatically increases. So size of legislative councils are mainly depends upon the population. So children, in these classes we have mainly discussed about the Government of India Act. Okay, initial provisions of Government of India Act. Okay, in which what we have discussed that Lord Montagu and Lord Chelmsford, so they were responsible for the formulation of Government of India Act 1919. So these two peoples played a very important role for the formulation and provision of this act. And what are the various reforms? Reforms are nothing but changes. What are the changes they wanted to make? That is called as reforms. Some changes are very important for development. So during that time they have made some changes, okay, minor changes. So here if you see Executive Council, As per the provision of this Act, the Executive Council members have increased from 8 to 12. Initially, the total members in Executive Councils were only 8, but now the members have increased to 12 members. After that, half of the Executive Councils are served in India only. So, other half of the Executive Councils we can find they have to serve in India. As per the provision of Government of India Act 1919, half of the member of Executive Council should serve in India. And now the membership of Executive Council at Governor General Executive Council have increased from 1 to 3. Before the post is only 1. The Governor General Executive Council position is only 1, but now they have increased from 1 to 3. So this is one provision. Second provision, if you see, as per the Government of India Act 1919, Central Legislative Assembly has bicameral. Bicameral in the sense whenever the houses are classified into two types, that is called bicameral, which is Legislative Assembly and Legislative Council. So during that time, whenever the Parliament consists of two houses, that is bicameral. Whenever the Parliament consists of one house, then that is called unicameral. Unicameral means one, unit means what? One. Bicamerals are nothing but two. Now during that time, so they are divided into two assembly, houses are classified into two types. In Legislative Assembly, if you see, the total strength of houses will be 146 members, and in Legislative Council the strength will be 60. So whenever if you are comparing the strength of Legislative Assembly and Legislative Council, normally the strength of Legislative Council will be less. So Britishers, when they formulated this Act, Government of India Act, here also in Legislative Council the strength was 60 only. Okay. Now Diarchy at provincial level, in state level, at central level, anyhow all the powers are under the control of Britishers. At state level, when they distributed the power to some people, India, so what they have did, distribution of power have did at state level. So whenever two forms of government were established, that is called Diarchy. Whenever the power vested in the hand of two important form of government, Britishers as well as Indian ministers, so they were called as Diarchy system. Okay. Now in this Diarchy, what they have did, the subjects were included, two important subjects were included. One is called reserved and one is called transferred. In reserved, we can find mainly classified into three types. One is called finance, one is irrigation, and laws and order. So these finance, irrigations, laws and order were under the control of Britishers. Okay, either if you see finance related, irrigation, laws and orders were under the control of Britishers. So whenever if you see the main and the important fields were under the control of Britishers and which are less significant, transferred, list. In reserved list, most of the field are very main, very important, crucial role, were under the control of British government, and which are not crucial, which are less significant, they were under the control of Indian ministers. Now provision legislative assembly. Provision legislative assembly is mainly consists of unicameral, we have seen. Here the strength of membership was 23 to 139. If you see the strength which was increased from 23 to 139. So there is only unicameral. At state level they have established only one house, that's why that is unicameral, and the size of that legislative council is mainly depends upon the population. In that area, if the population is less, strength will be 23. So in area the population will be more, strength will be 139. So that depends upon that point. So this all is nothing but the provision of Government of India Act 1919. Children, will end the class. We will meet you in the next class. In the next class, we will continue the same topic. Thank you very much.